And now from McAllen City Hall, a meeting of the McAllen City Commission.
I'll let you know where we are.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's City Commission meeting. We'll call this meeting to order. And we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by an invocation by Commissioner Sebi Haddad. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please bow your heads. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the Commission, fellow residents, we gather here today on this day of remembrance to invoke the spirit of unity and resilience that defines our great nation and city. As we convene the city meeting, we acutely are aware that today marks the anniversary of a tragic chapter in our nation's history, September 11th. In remembrance of the lives lost and the heroes who emerged from the ashes of the fateful day, may their memory inspire us to work together for the betterment of our community, upholding the values of unity, compassion, and perseverance. With this somber reflection in our hearts, let us now turn our attention to the important matters before us, seeking to build a brighter future for our beloved city. Amen.
Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you can please remain standing for a moment of silence in remembrance of 9/11. Thank you so much. And we have two proclamations today. We have Constitution Week. We have Mayor Pro Tem Quintanilla.
Anybody coming up for this proclamation? Yes, please. How you doing? How are you? How you doing? All right. Gives me great pride to give the following proclamation. Whereas the United States Constitution is the oldest and shortest written constitution of any government in the world. It contains only 4,543 words, including the signatures, and it takes about half an hour to read. It was drafted in less than 100 working days. And whereas the United States Constitution, America's most significant and important document, stands as a testament to the tenacity of Americans throughout history to maintain their liberties, freedom, and inalienable rights. And whereas Constitution Week is celebrated annually during the week of September 17th to the 23rd to commemorate its history, importance, and bring attention to how it serves still today. And whereas this celebration of the Constitution was started by the Daughters of the American Revolution. In 1955, DAR petitioned Congress to set aside September 17th to the 23rd annually to be dedicated for the observance of Constitution Week. The resolution was later adopted by the U.S. Congress and signed into public law on August 2nd, 1956 by President Dwight D. Eisenhower. And whereas the Daughters of America has also erected a structure that is built in tribute to the Constitution of the United States. DAR Constitution Hall, which is a performing arts center, opened in 1929. And whereas the aims of the Constitution Week celebration are to emphasize citizens' responsibility for protecting and defending the Constitution, inform people that the Constitution is the basis for Americans' great heritage and the foundation for our way of life, and to encourage the study of the historical events that led to the framing of the Constitution in September 1787. And whereas Constitution Week is a great time to learn more about this important document and celebrate the freedom it gives us. And now, therefore, I, Omar Quintanilla, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of McAllen, Texas, by the virtue and authority vested in me on behalf of the Mayor and City Commission, proclaim September 17th to the 23rd as Constitution Week.
And you know what? We usually announce birthdays. I kind of forgot, but we have a birthday coming up in a few days. And since we're not going to be here, we want to wish a happy birthday to our commissioner, the gentleman over here,
Yeah, Omar.
Martin Canilla. And our next proclamation is Passport Day in the USA, Commissioner Cabeza de Vaca.
Vénganse. Good afternoon. Balance it up. Hey. Ready? Proclamation, State of Texas, County of Hidalgo, City of McAllen. Whereas the City of McAllen Passport Division has been accepting applications since October 2007. Approximately 950 to 1,500 applications are accepted each month. And whereas no appointment is required to process routine or expedite U.S. passports, book or card applications. Walk-ins are welcome Monday through Friday between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. And whereas to avoid long waiting times, citizens are encouraged to schedule an appointment in advance by contacting the Passport Division. And whereas to better serve our community, the Passport Division has extended its services by providing off-site outreach at the citizens' naturalization ceremonies and on Saturday, September 23rd and Saturday, November 4th, 2023, from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And whereas for information or to access any forms, citizens may contact the Passport Division at 956-681-1450 or access the web page at www.travel.state.com. And whereas the Passport Division will be celebrating Passport Day in the USA and will be accepting passport applications on Saturday, September 23rd, 2023. The Passport Division facility is located at the downtown parking lot garage at 221 South 15th Street on the first floor. Now thereof, I, Pepe Cabeza de Vaca, City Commissioner of the City of McAllen, Texas, by virtue of the authority vested in me and on behalf of the Mayor and the City Commission, do hereby proclaim September 23rd, 2023 as Passport Day in the USA. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mayor and City Commissioners. Again, we just want to remind our citizens that the City of McAllen wants to help you get your passport. The facility will be hosting, again, as we said, the Passport and Vitals Records Fair on September 23rd. That's the Saturday from 8 to 4 p.m. at the Passport Acceptance Facility at 221 South 15th Street, located at the downtown parking garage. Appointments are recommended but not required, and walk-ins are accepted on a first-come, first-served basis. And again, for additional information, forms, fees, you can visit our website also at www.mcallen.net or the state website at www.travel.state.gov. And we look forward to seeing you on Saturday, September 23rd. Thank you.
Ready to travel.
And we have item number 1.
No, we have the heavy hitters, or
What do we have?
Mayor, Commissioners, tonight we have 4 items listed in the routine.
Hold on a second.
No, okay.
Hold on a second. Do we? I don't.
Perla, do we have the heavy hitters before you take a picture? No. Okay. Cancel. Okay, sorry.
Okay.
No worries. As I was saying, there's 4 items listed in the routine, 1 rezoning and 3 conditional use permits. They come with favorable recommendations from P&Z and had no opposition. They can be approved in one motion or discussed separately as desired. They are a rezoning from R1 to R3A at 3925 North Benson, a conditional use permit for life of the use for Iglesia Casa de Refugio y Restauración Pentecostés at 21 South 24th, a conditional use permit for 1 year for a vape shop at 1013 Pecan Avenue, Suite B, and a conditional use permit renewal for 1 year at 2200 Nolana Suites, 2212 and 2214.
Do we have anybody to speak here against any of the items? Anybody to speak against any of the items? Not, what are the wishes?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries.
I just have to recuse myself from item 1C2 and 1A1.
The next item is rezoning from R1 to R2 at 324 South Cynthia Street. This item is currently tabled. The applicant has requested for this item to be tabled until the October 9th meeting. So that's what we have today.
Okay, next item.
Mayor, just for the record, I did get a couple of calls from some of you on this item. And so I don't want to just go right by it and give everyone an opportunity to decide if we want to continue to table this item. You do have the right to hear it if you decide to do that. This has been tabled before. And so I just wanted to put that on the table.
The calls we received, were those calls against the item?
Right, and so the question was, I'm showing up and,
And I guess
this is
the
gonna
question
be item
is, do we have anybody here to speak against this item?
Yeah.
Okay, well then let's.
I want to take it off the table.
Do I hear a
I make a
second?
motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries, it's off the table. Go ahead.
Ford, you can come up.
Well, I think the planning director needs to make 3 presentations.
Either way.
I had presented it at the last meeting. I can re-present it. Usually I don't. So let me present it real quick. This property is located along the west side of Cynthia, approximately 115 feet north of East Dallas. Adjacent zoning is R1 all around. The surrounding uses are primarily single-family homes. The applicant is requesting R2 for a duplex development. Staff had previously received calls in opposition with their request citing desire to keep the single-family home character of the area. The item was eventually presented at the August 8th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. There were 3 neighbors who spoke in opposition, again, to the desire to keep the area single-family home. 2 others spoke in favor due to them owning 4 lots that they would also like to rezone. P&Z proceeded to recommend approval of the rezoning in a 4-to-1 vote. Since that meeting, we did receive a petition which has triggered supermajority. We are recommending this approval.
Okay, let's make it real easy. Do we have anybody to speak for the item? For? So I take it that all this group is, yes, sir. Go ahead.
I'm the applicant, sir.
Okay.
So I can let them speak first if you like.
Go ahead, sir. No,
I can let them do whatever they like to say.
I guess all this group is against. If we can have one person to be representative, I think that should work.
That'd probably be me, Mayor.
There you go.
Mayor, I appreciate you and the commission untabling this today, because we hate to just keep bringing our neighborhood back to the commission meetings every 2 weeks. And we showed up at P&Z. We spoke in opposition. Not real clear why this was approved by P&Z. It's an R1 neighborhood. We all live in an R1 neighborhood. I would venture to say each of you lives in an R1 neighborhood, and probably I would venture to say none of you would want to live across the street from a multifamily unit in your R1 neighborhood. Our neighborhood wants to stay R1 as well. You can see that by the number of people that signed the petition, as well as the neighborhood representatives that are here today. And so we like living in an R1 neighborhood. We want to keep it an R1 neighborhood. There are some homes in the area that need some work done on them. I happen to own the house that is catty corner and across the street from this property. I'm spending money, just had the house re-leveled and getting ready to do some remodeling work on that. A lot of the people in the neighborhood are fixing up their homes, and we don't want to spend that kind of money on our single-family residential neighborhoods if it starts a landslide of people wanting to rezone and start checkerboarding our R1 neighborhood with R2. So we're all here to speak in opposition of that.
Thank you so much. And I take it that this whole group feels the same way. Is that correct?
All right. If I may, I would like to speak. I've been here many times. In fact, I was here probably right when you all were going to open up McCall Road. I've been living in this home for 30-some years, and it's not speaking against something, it's about preserving something. We have in our area, if you all recall, this is a historical neighborhood. It's been, as we know, and I think you all know, it's been a neighborhood that actually, if you come from outside, from any place, whether you come from up north, you come from south, from wherever, everyone that comes through our neighborhood cannot believe that we have a neighborhood like we do, with the lush that we used to have, the lush nature that we used to have, the species that we used to have. We used to have so many bird watchers right before Quinta Mazatlan was open that would come to our neighborhood constantly, coming to see what species we had. When we opened, or when you all opened McCall Road, I don't know if you recall, it used to be a narrow road that supposedly we thought was going to be taken care of, and not to the extent where we have all this traffic. You have trucks that you can hear them in my kitchen bouncing up and down as they just fly through McCall Road. Then we have all this other traffic that comes not only from McCall Road, but you can hear the traffic coming from Jackson, and the neighborhood is invaded by traffic that now comes through Dallas. So what happens with all these species that used to come around and that used to live in our neighborhood? It was their natural habitat. We used to have trees that were constantly growing, and now many of them, obviously because they were torn down, whether because we had to open a road or whether they're building some type of an apartment. What are we doing for all this? I mean, it's our neighborhood, but it's also your community. This is a very historical neighborhood. I don't know if you all know, but many of these families that built this city were the ones that started. If you all remember, Senator Benson was there. In fact, I live in his home. And Senator Benson, along with their neighborhood, which was that big area that we have of trees, with Dr. Landrum, if you all know, historically, many of these families were part of our community, just like Dr. Chester, and many of these homes that are what you have seen throughout this town that you don't see anywhere. You don't see the large and big avenues. Where do you go? Anywhere in this town can you see that? You don't see it. So it isn't going against something, it's trying to preserve what is our community. That's the way I look at it. It's not like going against the apartments. It's why don't we plan putting these apartments somewhere where we don't have this natural habitat. That's what I think.
Ma'am, we have a 3-minute speaking limit.
Okay,
so
well,
if I
I'm
could
sorry.
please ask
It's
you to
just
wrap-
that
I don't mean to interrupt. I'm
Okay.
Just asking.
Hopefully
I
they
think we
can-
get
you
the
can look
gist
at
of
it
the,
like that.
of the group. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Albert Garza. I'm the applicant, and I'm here just to, I guess, clarify. The only reason I submitted the application for a duplex, not an apartment complex, for a duplex, is the fact that I got the fire department next to me. So trying to make it like a buffer or something, that was my intention of building a duplex, not a fourplex or anything like that. 5 lots north of me, there's a triplex that got approved on the same street. I understand their ideas of that I'm going to change it up, but it's just 1 lot. I happen to own all 4 lots, 2 houses that are there, and since this one was just vacant next to the fire department, that's why I figured, you know what, if I'm going to invest something next to a fire department, I figured doing a duplex. And that's what I presented to the Planning and Zoning Board, and that's why they approved it.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Okay, what are the wishes of the commission?
I would make a motion to deny the request.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is a rezoning from R1 to R3A at 12501 North Ruth. This property is located at the northwest corner of North Ruth and Junior, approximately 76.46 acres. Adjacent zoning is R1 to the northeast, R3A to the west, and then AO to the south. Surrounding uses include detached duplex development to the west, single-family homes, as well as vacant and ag land. The applicant is requesting R3A for a proposed detached duplex development. No subdivision application has been submitted at this point. The item was presented at the August 8th Plan and Zoning Commission meeting where 3 residents spoke in opposition concerned with traffic, flooding. At that time, the item was tabled. It was then untabled at the August 22nd meeting where after some discussion, P&Z unanimously recommended approval. The applicant and some people in opposition are here today.
Okay, who wants to go first? I guess we'll take the opposition.
Good afternoon. I'm Kenneth Johnson. I live adjacent to this property. Also, Mrs. Mortensen lives adjacent, and the Zunas were unable to come today. We don't have a problem with single family in that area. It's all single family. There is not the infrastructure. The roads are small. Just to the north of this, you have Edinburgh grade school. You have Edinburgh Junior High. You also have Idea Academy. Traffic will back up at that stop sign at Junior and Ruth a quarter of a mile back at certain times of the day. None of this area, there's no fire protection in that area. And, you know, the density, I'm just not sure that any of the roads, there's no infrastructure there to handle this at this point. You know, nothing's been done. There's no fire protection in that area. You have to argue with the police department because they'll tell you you don't live in McAllen. You've got to argue with, I had a fire when my parents, encroaching upon my parents' house when they were alive, and I couldn't get McAllen Fire Department to come out there. So I don't know how you guys think we can sufficiently take care of an apartment complex in this area. So, thank you for your time.
Anybody else against? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Commissioners. My name is Jane Cross, and I live really close to this, and the infrastructure just isn't there. And I would ask that maybe planning and zoning would go out to the property instead of looking down at a Google map. Because if you went out there, if you see the trees, they have real pretty pictures of the grapefruit trees or the fruit trees, but they don't show you what's on the other side. And the road isn't from here to there. I mean, instead of just looking at a Google map, because Google map doesn't really show you what it does. And I've experienced that. So there's just no way. Who's going to widen the roads? And let me tell you, we're doing a storage unit facility really close. It would benefit us a lot to have multifamily dwellings. But this is just not good for the community right there. There's no place for the traffic to go unless you know, run amok in somebody's field. There's wildlife out there, and it's just somebody needs to drive out there and physically look instead of looking at a map. That's all.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hello, I'm Tammy Mortensen. My land is up next to this land here, and we don't have the infrastructure. And like Mr. Johnson said, we've battled with the police. I've lived there for 20-something years, and they still don't know we're there. And I'm, you know, because across the street was Edinburgh, so if you call the police, you've got 3 or 4 different people coming. And like I said, we're just unknown. Okay, but I don't want the multifamily apartments there. It's going to just make more traffic, and we've got enough traffic as it is. Okay. And we got that little curve going on when you come off of 107, going down Ruth Road, you got that curve going on. And you'd be surprised at how many people can't do a curve. Okay? Now you're just going to double it more. Okay? But we just don't have the infrastructure. Okay. But I'd like for y'all to take that in consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else speak against the issue, the item? Okay, do we have the applicant?
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the commission. Mario Reina with Meldon & Hunt for the record. I'm the project engineer. On this particular transaction, I'm representing Mr. Andres Perez. He lives in Mexico City, part-time, McAllen part-time. And to answer some of the questions coming up, we understand that the road here, there's an issue. You go up Ruth Road, you hit Junior, it's almost a dead end. You gotta veer hard right. So we've already engaged a traffic engineering firm. The first thing we're gonna do, the first thing they've been tasked with doing is evaluating the traffic between 107 and Monte Cristo. McAllen's already approached this owner to buy a clip so that they could straighten the road out, do a curve through the property. That's something that it's like, we'll likely have to do that with our project, and we have the funds available to do that. As far as infrastructure, water, sewer, drainage, we'll be responsible for doing that through the subdivision process. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
And I guess that's one of the biggest concerns they have, the lack of infrastructure. And I guess we know that in order to develop, infrastructure has to be either water or sewer, whatever it is, drainage. So a lot of times that's not our concern, but they need to feel comfortable too. We also know that that area is what's going to be growing.
Yes, sir.
So we need to make sure that when it grows properly, and it has the necessary infrastructure and whatever we need to develop it accordingly and right. Questions?
I do have a question. So, what exactly are you trying to do there? You're going to do an apartment complex, multi-level
No,
kind
sir.
of a project?
No, sir. We're proposing a fourplex project.
Fourplex?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, if you're doing a fourplex, I think that R2 might be a better suit kind of zoning.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I spoke with Edgar this afternoon, and he made me aware that there's some changes to the code forthcoming.
So there'll be some changes to the code, right?
Sorry, Commissioner. I think as of right now, R2 doesn't allow for detached fourplex. That's why they're going for R3.
But it will in about a couple of months, isn't it?
Whenever we bring the Unified Development Code, that is the first thing that is on the board, basically.
We have detachable duplex.
So in other words, this will be a moot issue in a couple of months.
Could be. My only thing is when we get rezoning requests, I think we're always trying to be wary of pre-screening projects, right? Because we're not here to approve a project or not. We're here really to approve a rezoning. And if it fits in with...
But it depends on the project as well. And we can base our decision about rezone based on the type of project it's going to be.
To maybe help the issue, I think R2 would be willing to do that if that's the wishes of the commission.
But that is going to change in a couple of months, and that's what he wants to do. That he gets his project.
Well, that change also isn't guaranteed. I mean, it's not solidified yet, so...
Correct. I mean, we'll bring the proposal to you.
We don't want to make commitments to a code that isn't in place yet.
Exactly.
You know,
But on density and all that, Commissioner, so we have approved a lot of PUDs, and that's exactly to control that kind of developments. You know, and if they are proposing to do a fourplex, R2 will be pretty much the exact thing, and then in a couple of months we don't have to worry about PUDs anymore because the code is going to let you do those attached duplexes.
Expected to, yes.
Yes. Just to control the density in a way, because you can put up to 2,000 apartments in those 70 acres. Just.
What do you suggest, Edgar?
I talked with Mario earlier today. I mean, I certainly feel comfortable that when our new code comes in, it will fix this R2, R3A issue. I know I've had enough conversations with the different commissioners here to know that they're on board as well. So I certainly feel comfortable with telling a developer, any developer, not just Mario, that if they're willing, they can take the R2. They still haven't submitted a subdivision application. So by the time they're done, we'll have the new code and it'll be fixed, basically.
And our main concern, though, actually their concern and our concern too, is that we need to make sure that the infrastructure is there. Because everybody's concern is always gonna be flooding. So whatever development has to hold their own water, make sure it doesn't affect anybody else. Make sure that the streets are wide enough, make sure that the sewer system, water pressure, everything. So we ourselves need to make sure.
That's right.
That whatever happens, you know, that everybody is safe. And that's always one of my biggest concerns.
No, Mayor, as I look, and I know there was a reference, don't look at a Google map, but that's all I have right now. If you look around about a half a mile, you have a lot of residences. You have Ravenswood, you have Cuesta to the north, you have Pacifico, you have the Vineyards, Puerto Lagos, you have Meadow Creek, and of course, everything to the west of Ware Road is outside the city, but nevertheless, it's still residential. Within the last 2 years, there was a developer that was granted by this board to rezone for R3A off Ware Road, just north of 107 by about a quarter of a mile, or just south of the Vineyards and the Pacifico. What's different from this is that Ware Road is already projected to be expanded within the next 5 years. As far as I know, I don't think there's any plan for Ruth Road to be expanded in the next 5 years. And I do share the concern that the residents have in terms of putting potentially over 3,000 one-bedroom units, right?
Yes, sir.
Onto Little Ruth Road that doesn't even have a shoulder because there's a swale. And if you go into the swale, you're going to be stuck. As most of these folks probably have already probably know, because I know I did it back on Ruth Road just south of 107 decades ago. So that's my concern. In addition, I understand that if you're going to have that many units and that many rooftops, you're going to have the cars that go with it. And certainly 107 being a major arterial in the county for that matter, that's putting a lot of traffic on Little Ruth Road, and I'm concerned about that. This is not Ware. Ware is already programmed, and my concern is going back to the same issues brought up, but that's the infrastructure issue.
And Commissioner, I hardly ever go up there, but the concern is I have, a lot of the times, the people around the area are demanding commercial. They are demanding an HEB, they're demanding that type of stuff, but you're not gonna get that unless we get rooftops.
Right.
So now we have to balance that out, because they, believe me, the Vineyards, Country Meadows, all those are always, what happens to the HEB? Well, we don't have enough rooftops. Yeah. So I know it makes it hard for us that we have to balance, but in order to be able to provide the commercial, what they need, we also need rooftops. So we're talking about the expansion of Ruth Road. Are we anywhere near, Roy, looking at that? Because we've expanded 29th all the way to 107. I guess it curves to Ruth. I know 10th is expanded. Bicentennial goes to 107.
Ruth is currently not on any of our capital improvement plans.
I think it should be.
It can be, but it's not currently.
I think we really need to start looking at Ruth Road, because we know that is the area, that it doesn't matter whether it's this group or another group, or it's gonna develop, and it's gonna start developing, so we gotta take a look at Ruth Road.
Correct, but to your point, it is a hard balance, right? The city has an obligation to provide infrastructure and ensure that there's drainage and street capacity. But at the end of the day, we also have to allow developments. So why would Ruth Road be a priority if there's no growth on it, right? So there's a balance of promoting the growth. I mean, a project like this takes 24 months. That gives a lot of time for the city to also plan alongside the growth of Ruth Road to some extent, right?
Yeah, but I don't want us to commit to a road that we haven't even engineered or established some kind of a cost.
I don't think it's a commitment, but I think it's something that we.
I don't think it's not a rural country road. I mean,
yeah, it is.
I mean, it's not.
Ruth Road is a rural country road, and so is Schuner. And the other thing I want to bring up, historically, this board over the last 40 years have always looked at quarter and half mile collectors. Schuner would qualify as a quarter mile, but it deads into a private property, and it still has to cross a canal and then go, I guess, into the Sharyline water treatment plant. That's not going to happen. I really don't see that unless somebody acquires and decommissions that water plant. But you're not going to have that quarter mile collector that we speak about to get that commercial development. Your closest commercial development may be just Ruth Road and 107. or all the way to Monte Cristo on the other side.
Well, no, there is, right, there is a road off of Depot that will go to, that will go all the way to the vineyards area. Right north of this property, there is a
Chapin, you talking about?
Chapin Road,
Chapin.
I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. Chapin. It's not, it's correct. It won't go, but that's the one you're talking about.
Right.
Okay.
Park on the east side
What,
of-
what,
west side of the
ro-
canal.
what road is being proposed from the big subdivision that we approved that's gonna go to, 29th or this road, Ruth Road?
For which subdivision, sir?
From the, Cruz Cantu, that
Oh,
one.
that's, well, we call it 8.5 mile, but yeah.
Okay, well,
8.5.
there's a road
Yeah.
that's
But it
being
won't
proposed.
cross the ditch there.
cross, no.
Yeah, it's
Huh?
not it's not gonna cross the ditch, sir.
It only goes west.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's at the other side of the.
8.5 doesn't go the other way.
Kind of
Correct.
dead end into the
There's a
canal.
ditch there.
So is it the R3 is the heartache? I heard some discussion about
No.
allowing R2.
I think R2 is a lot less density. I think it'll be good for the project. I think the engineer is saying that it's something that he'll entertain and be okay with, and we can move forward with it. It's up to him. I don't know if
Yeah, we're on board with the R2. Based
I
on-
don't hear, what'd you say?
Yeah, we're on board with the R2 based on the information that we have. And if we have to come back at a future time for whatever reason, we'll come back.
Well, based on the application made before us today from R1 to R3, I make 3A, I make a motion to deny the rezoning at this time.
I'll second the motion.
discussion, so can he do that, but we can recommend R2 instead?
If it's lower, yes, sir. I mean, there is a motion on the table right now, but yes.
So I'll be inclined for that, but okay, then you have a motion and then we'll,
Okay, there's a motion to decline. All in favor?
Aye.
All against?
aye.
Motion fails. Do you have another motion?
I'll make a motion to make a, recommend R2.
I would second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All against?
Against, on the basis
Wait a
that-
minute, we don't have an R2, do we?
That's exactly what I'm trying to make my point. It's not on the agenda for an R2.
No, we can lower,
It's a lower density, so.
Lower density.
Mayor, you can do that? Yes.
Okay, can we take a vote again? Because I don't know what
Yeah, I
happened.
missed it too.
All in
Wait a
favor?
minute, wait a minute.
All against?
I wanna hear the motion.
Yeah, let's hear the motion again.
Okay.
R2.
Move to
To
approve.
go, to approve R2.
To approve
R2 needs to-
R2.
Second.
R2. Okay. Got your second?
Okay, there being a first and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
All against?
Aye.
Okay, so what do
I'm
we get?
abstaining to this thing.
Huh?
Rudy?
I don't have enough information to give.
Okay, so Talia's
a vote.
abstaining.
It's a 3-2.
Okay, so it's 3-2, okay, motion passes. Okay, what do we have?
Next item is a conditional use permit for Ricardo Vega on behalf of Maddie's Pumpkin Patch for 3 years at 6712 North Benson. This property is located on the east side of North Benson, approximately 960 feet north of Lark. It is currently zoned R1. Adjacent zoning is R1 to the north, west, and south, AO to the east. Surrounding uses include single-family homes, agricultural, and vacant land. The initial conditional use permit for this use was approved in 2021. The last approval was in August of 2022. The applicant is proposing to continue operating Maddie's Pumpkin Patch from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily. The item was heard at the August 22nd Plan and Zoning Commission meeting. There was no opposition at that meeting, and it was unanimously disapproved with a favorable recommendation for 2 years as opposed to the 3. Since then, we have received a petition from surrounding neighbors. It has not triggered supermajority. It's about 16%, so just about 4% short of the 20 required. We also have some pictures that were sent in by the neighbors showing what they've had to deal with. They had given us some PD reports. Only one of them pertained to Maddie's, and it was because of the livestock you see in these pictures. I believe we have opposition as well as the applicant here today.
Okay. Request, anybody there to speak against the item? Against?
Come forward, ma'am.
Good afternoon, City of McAllen Mayor and Commissioners. I am here today in opposition of the CUP application. I am one of several neighboring parties within 200 feet of this business. Y'all are aware of those that oppose as I have submitted their signatures. I am here once again because of the location of this business, which is 200 feet of several residences and is in a residential zone, which is against city ordinance. This type of business belongs outside of city limits or in a commercially zoned area where they don't disrupt the daily lives or pose a threat to their neighbors' health, peace, and lives. I have spent a lot of time and money, as my neighbors have, in developing our properties, only to be disrupted by the constant traffic, noise, loose animals, and dust being caused by the business. Again, the main issues are proper parking, traffic, noise, dust, and loose animals. From the last meeting, I believe he said he would be watering the area down so that there wouldn't be any dust. But and I'm not aware if he complied with this or not, but whatever he did didn't help. The other issue is the noise. With at least 1,000 people at a time walking within 1 foot of my property, it's always loud and there's no tranquility in my backyard. The tractors and music can clearly be heard, and this is a daily issue. I understand the last time that you all had also limited the business hours so that they won't be operating at night, but then when do I get to enjoy my property? What continues to break my heart is that my girls no longer have a safe, quiet, and clean backyard, as they have on several occasions been put in danger by their loose donkeys and cattle with huge horns. Any business in the city of McAllen is required to provide proper paved parking and fencing. The last time we were here, you all required them to put up a fence in the hope of giving us privacy. Well, they did the bare minimum just to comply with your request. The fence they put up was not done properly, and it has fallen several times, and this is how their animals have ended up on my property, as well as on the city streets. This is a serious issue, one that I brought up last time, and has the potential to be life-threatening. What would happen if those loose cattle caused an accident? What if that loose cattle or donkey had kicked one of my innocent girls? I can continue on and on with the what-ifs, but what is it going to take for the safety of my girls and our fellow residents to be taken with utmost importance? Will it be when a what-if is now a tragedy? I have advised the city of this potential issue several times. I really hope this time our concerns are taken seriously, as the last time we were here, you advised him that if something like this happened again, there would be no permit. Well, here we are, and it happened several times. So I really hope you all can now do what needs to be done, which is deny the CUP permit. I really do hope that you have a sense of understanding or can put yourself in our shoes on what we must deal with. I'm aware that several of you on this council have been to the establishment and were able to enjoy it with your families. I'm not sure if you were there on a busy day, weekend, or if this was a private event, but I'm sure you could get a sense of the amount of people that go, the noise and dust that it causes. And you've seen the animals that end up on my property and the streets of McAllen. This is unacceptable. Make the right decision based on the rules and regulations that the city of McAllen has imposed on their residents, and that you all have imposed on this establishment, and that has not kept up with your requests. These ordinances were set for a reason.
I need to ask you to wrap up. That's 3 minutes.
Okay. Well, I just really hope that you guys understand, what we've been put through for several years now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Anybody else against the item?
I've got a question. 2021.
Sir, if you could please come up to the microphone and identify yourself for the record.
Yes, sir. My name is Leo Chow. I am Erica's husband. In 2021, we submitted the petition. We had a supermajority. Not sure what changed from then. From what I understand, the supermajority is within 200 feet. So I should have that supermajority now. I had it in 2021. That's my only question. Everything else my wife said.
What is the question?
Why don't I have a supermajority today and I did in 2021, if it's within 200 feet? Nothing has changed, right? It just is.
That's based upon the city receiving either a recommendation for denial from the Planning and Zoning Commission, which did not occur with this application, or receiving the requisite number of signatures on a petition with respect to the current application, not a former application. Supermajority would not apply today.
I got it over there.
It's based off the 200 feet, isn't it?
400 feet.
400 feet?
Yeah. You can PIR this. All right, you got it.
Okay, anybody to speak for the item?
For the last 2 years, we've had a CUP permit.
Sir, if you could just identify yourself for the record.
Oh, my
please.
name is Ricardo Vega, I'm the applicant. For the last 2 years, my neighbors had any problems with our establishment, they never voiced their concerns to anybody. They're only making their voices heard today, and only after our cows escaped 2 weeks ago, and only after I see that somebody cut the fence, our barbed wire fence, through their side of the property. You can go ahead.
And just to identify myself, my name is Jaime Morales. I was here on behalf of Mr. Vega. I guess those are the kind of the concerns that we had. I mean, one, we've been working closely. I think Edgar has received numerous calls from me over the last few years. Basically, if we're made aware of something, he responds. The fence, as Mr. Vega noted, there was a barbed wire fence that separated the two properties. The property to the south, I believe, that belonged to Mr. Chow. The barbed wire fence is the most effective way to keep an animal from crossing over. However, there was the question regarding the visibility, privacy. So we put up a privacy fence. The fence was inspected by the city. It passed muster. However, the barbed wire fence that was on the other side was cut. We're not sure by who, but my client did not remove it. I believe the supermajority wasn't necessary because there was another neighbor who no longer has any opposition that we're aware of. Mr. Vega has always been diligent into responding to any requests or any concerns that are made. The animals are not part of the pumpkin patch. I guess that's one of the things. Mr. Vega originally bought this property as a hobby farm. So previously he actually had numerous cattle, a variety of animals on the property. He's actually been removing them to, at this point, he's down to 2 cows and 3 donkeys. But if the pumpkin patch was not approved, the animals would still be there. This area does allow animals as far as I'm aware. There's never been an issue, but as far as it being a function of the pumpkin patch, they're kind of 2 separate parts. And again, Mr. Vega is open to any way to resolve that issue if that's the primary issue. He does have parking. I believe there's parking attendants. He hires off-duty officers in order to come in to make sure that there is not overflow onto the public street. And I believe that was addressed. I think that was a concern. So I believe, not sure if there was that kind of issue when a few members had made the trip out there, but he has kind of the ticketing into the interior of the property to try to prevent any overflow. He is leasing another piece of property to the north of him in order to use as an overflow parking lot. So some of the concerns that were listed in there about damaged property isn't really an issue, or we were not aware that was an issue. Is that my warning?
That's your time.
Okay. What and is this open throughout the year or just temporarily? How does it work?
I believe the CUP is for the year. However, it operates primarily as a pumpkin patch that usually will operate, I believe, pretty soon.
Yeah, from September to the end of the year. And it's mostly people go in, they take pictures, and then they leave. That's what people look for. And it's a way to preserve, the old ranch, the old historic places like they were talking about. People still like that. They like to go out and experience it with their family.
Sir, if you could please speak into the microphone so we can preserve your comments for the record.
So people still like the idea of going out to a farm style environment with their families to take pictures. And that's what we're about. We're about keeping the old traditions alive.
And it's primarily set up as a photo venue. I believe there's a little train that kind of takes people around the property. So it's not something where he's trying to have large parties or anything where he's trying to create a lot of noise. And he's done everything he can to mitigate any disruption to the neighbors, as far as the fence, as far as the altering hours, as far as creating additional parking, trying to control the flow of the parking. And like I said, the animals are kind of a secondary. They're not really part of what he's trying to do with the pumpkin patch. So if that's something that we're open to any requests on behalf of the council.
I got a question. So on a busy day, how many people could actually be at that place?
At one time, I would say there's anywhere between 100 to 200 because there's attrition. They come and leave. They come and leave. So at one time, there's about 200, and they're mostly towards the back area, not closer to the road or to any residences, as some of you guys saw when you went out there. And they stay behind the house and amongst the trees. So in that area, and they're mostly taking pictures. They're not drinking, laughing, carrying on. It's basically about the pictures.
And so your property is adjacent to their property?
Yes, sir.
And we did put up the wood fence as was requested and to the height that was requested. Again, the neighbors did put up a cinder block fence around the other portion of the property, but not between their property and Mr. Vega's property. So Mr. Vega, again, had this barbed wire fence and put up the wood fence as requested. And, you know, whatever we need to do, he's willing to do.
Well, we did get some pictures of the wood fence. I mean, it appears to be poorly taken care of in certain parts, right? I'm sure it's visible at all times. The wooden fence is something that we understand planks fall or
Yes.
something, but it should be something you should be able to repair fairly quickly.
Yes, and we've had the recent storms have, you know, they wreaked havoc on a lot of areas there in that area. I think a tornado actually went through there, uprooted some trees, and we ended up repairing the fence after that issue.
The fence right now at this point is
It's up.
fully repaired, up, no holes?
No, sir.
Mr. Vega, when you came here some time back, you know, there was some concern from the neighbors. Obviously, the Chow family had some reservations. I spoke to you on various occasions about these matters. It's not necessarily about the business itself. I think what you provide in terms of a venue for people to spend the hopefully coming cooler weather in the fall, to spend family time on the weekends or in the day. And I've been out there a couple of times, as a matter of fact, and your busiest days are obviously on the weekend compared to the rest of the business week. But my concern as the commissioner for this particular district, I've been very much in tune with the residents and yourself. You even got a phone call from me today about the livestock. I understand that the livestock is peripheral to your operation, but my issue is the compliance part. Is at least when I've addressed you, you know, this whole area, this part of town is in transition, going from rural to urban, and it's going to be continuing that way. And I believe, at least when I spoke with Mr. Chow, that barbed wire fence actually belonged to him. And him, as being the property owner, has every right to put up or take down as long as it's within his property line. And if that would have prevented the livestock, maybe, maybe not. But the issue is the compliance to be sure that that fence was being maintained, so you wouldn't have an incident like what you just saw on the teleprompter on the monitor of donkeys going up to the doorbell. I mean, it's kind of hilarious, but really it isn't, because that's a private property's owner property, and you have livestock going onto his property. There's another picture, which I'm a Longhorn fan, but I don't know if I would want a Longhorn in my backyard, right? and that's a deep concern, because if they have small children or if they had guests, you know, some folks just don't know how to interact with livestock, and I'm one included. You know, I think there has to be a duty or a responsibility on the owner to be sure that that is inhibited and certainly prevented. And so the issue again here is the compliance part, Mr. Vega, like I spoke to you earlier this afternoon and also in past times. You know, and that's their concern. I don't think they have a problem with your operation. It's their issue is the compliance part.
And I guess in response, we are willing to remove the livestock completely from the property, if that's the primary issue. I mean, like I said, it's ancillary to what his business. If the livestock is an impediment to him being able to conduct his business, he can remove. He has other property in which to remove and place that livestock.
And again, it's the compliance. If he was updating, maintaining, ensuring, And I understand, Mr. Ray, you do not live on that property, correct?
Correct. yeah.
Okay, you don't live on that property.
We work there every day,
Okay.
about 5, 6, 8 hours a day.
So it's a maintenance issue. If you saw and observed that there were slats or pickets that were missing, or if you saw and observed that there was a barbed wire that was there one day but no longer there, as a property owner, I would think you had a duty to be sure their livestock that wasn't trespassing onto another person's property. Okay? And that's a concern I share, because had that been done, had the steps and efforts and diligence been exercised to be sure that that incidents that they've been recorded, you would not have any opposition, other than maybe the dust that's being raised. And I saw the tractor with the big water tank mitigating. I saw it, and I saw you used it. Most of the parking that you have is actually on the north side of the property that you've leased out from the other property owner. I understand. You've done that mitigation. But this other issue on the fence, I'm not satisfied. I'm concerned, actually, with regards to your level of compliance with the spirit of the conditional use permit, so as not to impair the enjoyment of your neighbors who actually reside in a residential home, who live there 365 days a year, and would like to have their safety and security maintained.
If I may.
Yes, sir.
I guess my only response would be, there was, I believe, 3 reports. I'm assuming they were all respect to animals, but only one of those applied to Mr. Vega. So there are other animals, cows, goats, in that area that also get loose. I mean, I understand we're here primarily because it's the CUP. However, I guess Mr. Vega is doing everything he can, but animals do tend to get out, and I believe that's why
I'm
I'm
going to disagree
offering.
with you, Mr. Morales. I'm going to respectfully disagree with you that about the part he's doing everything he can. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
And I guess the only thing he can do that's more is to remove the animals from the property. I believe the incident, the pictures that we're talking about were approximately 2 weeks ago, and that's kind of really the only real incident that we're aware of. But short of that, we had gone a great amount of time. You know, again, if it was something that happened frequently, multiple times, I understand. But like I said, our best response is we will remove the animals.
Anybody else? Any other questions?
Oh,
issues?
I'm done there, thank you.
Well, I mean, just to add, I guess, some discussion to it. I mean, you can remove the animals, but you're not going to remove the traffic. You know, I think one of their arguments was that there's a lot of people. There's people next to their house, and it's a nuisance for them, and it's bothering them. It's causing other problems, and I can imagine during the busy time that, you know, they're not in a comfortable state. Them living in an R1 state in situation right adjacent to your property, having to deal with a lot of people right next to them, you know, adjacent property. And so, you know, just removing the livestock is not going to remove the traffic and the dust and everything that comes about by having a business right next to your property, right? So I think that's something that should also be considered here.
The traffic is on the north part.
Sure.
Yeah.
Been addressed.
I guess the issue with the traffic, again, I understand we're being told that there's issues with the traffic. However, he has people there to control the traffic. There hasn't been a single photo. I believe we were here, I believe it was 2 hearings ago, where there was photos of people parked along the ditch, the road backed up. There's no such pictures anymore. I mean, a lot of these complaints were the same ones that were issued before. However, he's addressed those. And, you know, to me, again, the parking is on the north side. He has a way to control the flow of exiting of any vehicles on the north side away from the chows. He's spoken to the neighbors on the north side. They were previously opposed. They do not have any issues anymore. So again, we hear a problem, we fixed it. And again, animals had not really been a problem until the incident that occurred about 2 weeks ago. And that's why that's how we would fix it.
Wishes of the commission.
Mayor, at this time, I make a motion to deny the conditional use permit as made by the applicant.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, there being a first and a
Will you,
second.
if there's improvements, and that's just discussion, right?
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
instead of the 2 years, maybe give them 1 year so they can fix and prove. It went from 2 to 1. And in this one, they don't be good neighbors, and we can deny it all the way. It's just,
I think all things being fair, that had there been more diligence, I would like to have seen that the applicant would have honored those conditions, but I don't see that today.
so that's why instead of giving 2 years, maybe give them 1, or maybe it can be a 6-month period. And get the things going and repaired and show that they can really commit.
I understand your advocacy, Commissioner, but with all due respect, I've had more than a handful. I can count probably up to 10 times. I've had phone calls with Mr. Vega and with the Chows at least 3 or 4 times, and at least 2 or 3 times with other neighbors. I can't recall their names on. But
Across the street or very close is a neighborhood.
yes, the
Okay.
plantation gap.
Right. Do they have a HOA in the plantation, and have they been opposed, or those residents been opposed to it?
To our knowledge, we weren't. I mean, we weren't aware of it.
I'm asking.
Oh, sorry.
Not to my knowledge either, okay?
We have not received anything from Plantation Gap, and I believe they do have an HOA.
Yeah, okay, and it's a large subdivision, and it's across the street.
Yeah, but maybe 8 or 10 lots of that subdivision are within that 400-foot.
Yeah,
barrier.
but, no, I just, from my
Oh, I see.
knowledge, I just wanted to know if there had been any opposition there. Okay.
Okay, any other discussion? There being a, excuse me, a first and a second to deny, what are the wishes of the council? All in favor to deny?
Aye.
All against?
Aye.
Motion fails. Do I have any other motions?
I think I'll give them the opportunity of 6 months to comply with everything that was mentioned by the neighbors, and revisit after that, and they're not complying with, then we'll check and do another kind
And
of.
Councilor, we can condition it to a certain amount?
It's a conditional use permit, so
You
you
can pull-
can
you pull
put a
through.
time limit, and I assume your motion includes all the conditions included by staff.
That is correct.
Mayor, I don't mean to interrupt the discussion, but Mr. Chow back there has indicated he'd like to address the board, if that's okay.
One more thing, Mr. Zamora. The picture I sent you earlier, said I already sent it to you. Yeah, you're right. I did send it to you. It was 2 months after it was passed, the first in 2021, and that's you in 2020, same month. I mean, same year, but 2 months later. So right away, it started failing. And
Could you please describe to the board the pictures that you're talking about? Describe what is being depicted. in the photo.
cows on the middle of Benson Road. Cows in the middle of Benson Road, where if anybody's on their full cell phone, which the majority of people are, fortunately they shouldn't be, they'll hit that cow. They're not paying attention.
Because the question is, who did the cows belong to?
They belong to Mr. Vega.
Well, because there are several incidents, and I don't know.
As far as the police reports, I have the police reports. Like I spoke with Mr. Zamora, I've called. They say that you can look through it with a ticket or I don't know what, because it's animal control, not the PD. I'm not sure what happens
Is he
there.
allowed to have cows regardless of whether he has a conditional use permit?
That property used to be, when it got annexed, basically it's a non-conforming use, right? So they are allowed to maintain what they have. If they go down, they can't go back up. So if he
That is
does,
the issue, so whether he gets a conditional use permit for the pumpkin patch or not, he can still have the cows.
that is correct, sir.
Which moots the issue.
I did want to say one more thing. We were here the last time, and you guys did give him a year to be compliant, and that's why we're here again.
It was 2 years, no?
No. The very first time we were here in 2021, you guys approved, and here we are with the same issues.
Sure.
So I don't see how 6 more months is gonna, continue to
Well,
help us.
they're proposing for the animals to be gone.
Correct.
That's what I heard. right?
And
And
I
see
guess
one
that
of the-
throws a different wrench, because regardless of conditional use or not, he can have 5, 10 cows regardless. So that really is not an issue. The issue is the operation of the pumpkin patch. So we need to make sure that if the commission is leaning to do it, that everything that is required be done. Otherwise, I can assure you, chances are it's gonna get pulled.
Right. It can be pulled at any time, actually. So I feel more comfortable if the animals are gonna be removed, which it seems it's be part of the
But
big
the
issue.
the only problem is there, Commissioner, that it's a non-conforming use. Should he remove all the animals, then he's not gonna be able to put them back on, even if the pumpkin patch is.
The more pertinent issue is the maintenance of the fence, and that's where the diligence has been lacking.
It's up to them to.
Correct. So in other words, it is up to
And it
the
lasts for
applicant.
6 months and it can be pulled at any time anyways.
And again, my client's willing to reinforce the fence. The cattle, I guess he has to understand that if we pull them off, then they're not gonna be able to be back on there. So if that's something that you're okay with, and then I guess finally, we're willing to, the pumpkin patch is the main business, run from
Correct.
September through December. It had been extended for the full year, however, it's pretty
So
hot.
Morales, I think you all have
And-
had oil for at least 6 months.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
We struck oil for 6 months,
Oh.
Mr. Morales.
Correct.
So,
So-
was there a second on the motion?
You have a motion from Commissioner Cabeza de Vaca. You don't have a second yet.
Yes, is there a second or not on a conditional use for 6 months?
For 6 months?
With the
I
conditions.
would second.
Okay, there being a first and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
All against?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, we have, where are we at?
C2?
C2.
Sir, this conditional use permit at 1200 Auburn was not able to be heard by Planning and Zoning Commission, so we recommend to table it until they've made their.
Motion to table.
I abstain from that item.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Need a motion to amend the zoning ordinance of the city of McAllen.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Item D.
Item E is a public hearing on City of McAllen's proposed budget for fiscal year 23-24.
And public hearing. Yes, ma'am.
Petra.
And we respectfully request that you don't beat us up too much.
Nedra Knurk, 4121 Camellia Court. I'm speaking on the proposed budget. I've observed most of the City of McAllen budget workshops for future RTV for quite a few years. My overall impression this year was very positive, that McAllen has come through some difficult years and projects a $655 million budget with a property tax decrease, which is 45 plus cents per hundred from last year's 47 plus per hundred. So that's very good. The City of McAllen's income continues to be more stable with less dependence on sales tax revenue and more on ad valorem revenue due to the growth in the city. And this is important since more sales tax income that used to come to McAllen now goes to other cities, which have increased their stores and alike. The days of working capital is projected to be 201 days, and that too is very good. So this budget will fund appropriations for public safety, parks, operations at our 2 international bridges, public utilities, and more. And public safety, as usual, continues to be about half of the budget. But we have a very safe city, so that's good. I think very important, the budget continues to work on a 7-year plan to improve employee retention with continued pay raises and a 1.5 to 3% COLA, which is very important, and longevity pay, which will be starting in November for long-term McAllen employees. This is vital to retain a well-trained group of employees, and this should help McAllen overall. And of course, there are 17 new positions. Capital improvement projects included airport improvements. I was very pleased that they're going to have a parallel runway feasibility study again, and I would like to know more about the feasibility study for the second runway. that was done 2 years ago, I believe, as well as this one. I think this is very important because obviously if anything happens to our one runway, McAllen is in serious trouble. Capital improvements also included public safety, streets and drainage. The firefighter training facility got about $4 million plus. Drainage improvements, $6 million plus. Did I say 4,000 on firefighter training? That was $4 million. I beg your pardon. Drainage improvements, very important, over $6 million. Street improvements and repaving, $2 million plus. Southside parks, to bring them equitably here, $1 million plus. A small city fiber project was included, and the city hall expansion. The design was funded, but about $21 million plus was put on the Boy Reservoir project, which is also very important for McAllen. The Development Corp funding included some very important quality of life programs.
Go ahead.
I'm almost through. Can I finish? Thank you. Those quality of life programs are the UTRGV Medical School for about $1 million, the STC Nursing and Allied Health Programs, $500,000, and this is a big plus for McAllen's economy as well as the health of McAllen and the RGV. IMAS and Quinta Matzalan received strong support with $1 million for the IMAS Children's Museum, and Quinta Matzalan Palm House Master Plan received about $54 million plus. McAllen Heritage Center was recognized with rollover funds from 2022 of $75,000 for an expansion design study, but help on the 3-story annex project was not determined. The McAllen Heritage Center has made a strong case for the need for a 3-story annex to ensure future growth and success of the museum in downtown McAllen. And I implore you, each of you, on behalf of the museum board, the executive director, and the staff, as well as the city of McAllen, to reconsider your position on this much-needed program. The annex will be a city asset and is very important to our city, our people, and our history. But overall, the McAllen budget for 2023-2024 is meeting a number of important McAllen needs in safety, in services, in quality of life, and I very strongly support its adoption. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nedra, and we really do appreciate it. I know you, I think I saw you in every workshop, and I just wish we had more civic-minded individuals here in our great city of McAllen like you.
Well,
Thank you
I'm
so
just
much.
very grateful that we have people who care enough about our city that they take on the job that you guys are taking on. I don't always agree with you, but I really value the fact that you care enough about our city that you take this on. And I want to thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Likewise, thank you, Nedra.
I was gonna say all that.
Up to.
But, so, thank you, Nedra. Thank you. The only thing I'm gonna repeat is that we're reducing the property tax rate by 2.2 cents.
Amen to that.
Excellent. Anybody else? Okay. We'll close the public hearing. Now, next we have consent agenda. We have items A through
K.
Through K. Do we need to pull anything out?
Motion to approve 2A to 2K.
All in favor?
Aye.
All against? Motion carries. Thank you for your presence, Ms. Rivera.
Second by Mr.
Okay, item 3.
3A is a work contract for the Verdon Avenue Drainage Improvements Project.
Mayor and Commission, this project focuses on addressing localized flooding issues along the 2700 block of Verdeen Avenue. The scope of work includes storm sewer infrastructure upgrades consisting of roughly 220 linear feet of storm sewer, turbulence, junction boxes, and related pavement reconstruction. Staff recommends award of the contract to the lowest responsive bidder, Artillery LLC of Edinburgh, Texas, in the amount of $107,780 with a contract time not to exceed 45 days. We've included a map for your review of the location, and we open it up for any questions.
Any questions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Item B.
B is award of contract for the Mona Avenue Drainage Improvement Project.
Again, this project focuses on addressing localized flooding issues in the 2300 block of Mona Avenue. The scope of work includes the storm sewer infrastructure upgrades consisting of 1,250 linear feet of storm sewer, curb inlet, junction boxes, and related pavement construction. Staff recommends award of the contract to the lowest responsive bidder, MJA Construction LLC of Mission, Texas, in the amount of $325,112.83, with a contract time not to exceed 150 days. We've included a location map for your reference, and we open it up for any questions.
So what, without going into a lot of great detail, what exactly is going to be put in or removed?
So right now, we're extending inlets, and then we're going to take them to the outfall that's just to the west.
Okay.
And that provide relief where currently there was some outfall, but we believe the line may have collapsed. We try to trace it with our engineering staff. We couldn't trace that, so we found an outfall for this project.
Very good. Motion to approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Item C.
C is consideration and approval of change order number 2 for the North Gate Lane drainage improvements.
Mayor and Commission, change order number 2 consists of additions to the contract scope to facilitate program sewer line conflict of the project. The amended scope results in a net change of $74,970.83 with 10 additional calendar days. McAllen Public Utility will participate with $24,990.28. The City of Edinburgh will participate through a future interlocal agreement in the amount of $24,990.28. The City of McAllen with a balance of the same amount. All sums to the total change in the contract amount. The proposed changes are listed there. Staff recommends approval of change order number 2 in the amount of $74,970.83, 10 additional calendar days, for a revised contract amount of $1,468,477.58, and a revised contract amount of 270 calendar days. And we open it up for any questions.
Questions?
Motion to approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Item D.
These are yearly interlocal government agreement with Palm Valley Animal Society.
Good afternoon, Commissioner and Mr. Mayor. We're respectfully requesting your approval to accept the intergovernmental cooperative agreement with Palm Valley Animal Society for the operation of a regional animal shelter in the amount of $1.2 million for the 2023-2024 fiscal year. This was negotiated down to a 1-year term versus a 3-year term contract, which will allow the city to revisit next year's negotiated terms. Based on our numbers being significantly lower, this may result in a reduced agreement price. There will be no cost this year for any deceased animals taken to the facility, and we hope to start funding some preventative measures in the future, including veterinary services and spay and neuter clinics.
Questions?
Nope, we've gone through a lot of different workshops and everything. Sebi?
Yeah, motion to approve. I think they're making
Second.
steps in the right direction.
Yeah, second.
I think we truly are, and it's amazing the interest that the community has for pets. As a matter of fact, sometimes way over, I think y'all know what I mean. And I'll say it, we receive so many calls and texts and emails from people whenever they see an animal that's either abandoned or they feel that is maltreated. So hopefully we're moving in the right direction.
Well, I'm proud to say that the philosophy that we've taken on now as animal care services
Right.
is one highly of education and really fostering that responsible pet ownership. And we get a lot of calls for animal cruelty, animal welfare, and we respond to all of them.
But a lot of the times it's not.
A lot of times it's
As a
not.
matter of fact, most of the time it's not, so we gotta balance it out. There's a difference,
So with the volume decreasing significantly, it looks like we're keeping the same.
Yes, in the
support.
past, the numbers were at 375 a month, because that was the per capita that they had. And we've dropped down our numbers to, this month, August ended with 77. The
So-
previous month, 90, the previous month, 105.
So it looks like our volume is down to like a third of what it was before.
Absolutely.
Or less.
A
Our
lot of
support-
the cases, of course, are some of those that have been either arrested or animals that are in a welfare concern. We've adopted a very new philosophy.
I imagine that we're looking for other options. I mean, this is more of support, keeping our support at the current level is basically to give us maybe a bridge until we can find another solution, because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense that we're dropping off a third or less of the animals, and yet we're keeping our support at the same amount.
But I'd say to that, Commissioner, and you're right with your comment about where we are, is two things. One is that we want to show that we can be consistent with the numbers. And two is that they came in at 1.7, 1.8 million, not 1.2. And so we negotiated that down and basically committed to change the philosophy. And so with those two combination of things, we were able to reduce it by $500,000. So I really think that we've got a good trend going. It's not enough to be certain, but if we continue, we should expect that 1.2 million to go down.
And I really hope so, because I know it's very, we need to help out, Palm Valley, whatever it is, make sure, but I don't think we should carry the obligation of other municipalities that may not be as responsible.
Right.
Yes, but-
Absolutely agree.
Well, let's also remember, we have an obligation to maintain an animal intake facility, right, by state law.
Right.
So we also can't withhold them till they can't, they've got a certain level of operating costs, right, they've got to maintain. And I think $1 million a year, in the grand scheme of things, we hope to reduce the amount, I think, for what we see as intake cost. But I would hope that we could, as she mentioned, divert those funds to spay neuter programs, neighborhood awareness, educational campaigns, expanding those types of services, right? So that overall we improve the animal welfare.
Well, I'm
within
hoping that the
community.
other cities too are reducing their volume to the Palm Valley Animal Shelter as well. Because we could be doing our part, but what if the other cities
100%,
aren't?
you're correct. But I think
I think
there's gonna be an
McAllen
uphill
has
battle
set the
initially.
standard.
We've got to set the standard. We've got to show that it works.
And we get a lot of calls from other cities asking, what are y'all doing? How come your numbers are low?
But they're
And
taking
it's-
notice.
It's gradual. This is just our 4th month.
What's our policy with regards to stray dogs again?
To stray dogs,
Yes.
if the dog is stray, we send, if the dog is stray and it's not doing anything, we don't.
We don't act on it, okay.
If the dog is stray and it's darting towards people or becoming aggressive, or if it's going into somebody's yard and destroying things, we send an officer out. The first thing they do is scan that animal, make sure they're not chipped. If they're not chipped, then they start going door to door.
Okay.
Try to reunify. If they say, we don't know, then that animal is then taken to Palm Valley, and we set them up for adoption.
Okay, so the city intervention is only triggered by some sort of nuisance or threat to the public or safety, right?
Absolutely. And we've had some very severe cases.
Very well.
And we will be hosting the drive-through microchip clinic on September the 23rd here at our city hall, right across the street. And we are be operating from 9 to 12, and we hope to do as many as we possibly can.
Thank you.
I think those are the things that's going to really improve. And I know that we had we're looking at a consultant that can help us do a lot more programs. I think we just need to be that proactive for 2 years to 3 years to really get the education out there, and also to get the spading and all of that, neutering and, programs that will help the whole area. And so we're doing a lot better, I think, since the last couple of years. I think we're doing better.
Heading in the right direction.
And we're headed the right direction.
Right.
And the new department, I think, is training a lot of their employees, and they're doing very, very well. I'm getting very good feedback of us changing from one department to the other.
Excellent. Was there a motion to approve in a second or not?
Yeah, there was.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Next item.
E is consideration and approval to negotiate with top-ranked, non-exclusive food and beverage concessionaire at McAllen International Airport.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Based on the review by the Evaluation Committee made up of Airport Advisory Board members, staff is requesting authorization to negotiate with the top-ranked concessionaire, Oakwell's Commuter Rail LLC. The contract and all other business details will be brought to you if this item is approved. At this point, if you have any questions, I'll answer them.
So right now it's to negotiate.
Right.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is it a staff's recommendation as well?
Yes.
In addition to the advisory board's?
Yes, we agreed with the Advisory Board
Okay,
recommendation.
okay, great.
Mr. Suarez, other than
Yes.
the fact that D&M Coffee elected not to take up the second renewal option, do we know a reason why that was? Or explain?
I think there was a private matter
Oh, I
that
see.
the family was dealing with.
That's all I needed. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Item F.
Consideration and approval of contract amendment number 7 for the runway incursion mitigation and hotspot analysis.
Staff is recommending approval of contract amendment number 7 with KSA Engineers for an FAA-required analysis and design of the improvements needed for improved entrance from the taxiway to runway 14. At this point, I'll entertain any questions that you have. I'll remind the Commission that these projects are covered with 90% FAA grant funds and 10% PFC
You
funds.
say this is FAA required?
Yes, it's an FAA
Do I have
required.
a motion to approve?
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Because I know for a fact that there was a small entrance to that cargo apron before it got paved out and squared off.
So the issue is that they called that a hot spot because what's happening is as the aircraft are taxiing, waiting to get permission to get onto the runway area, they're just very slightly going over that edge of that non-movement area. And that's considered an incursion. And the more of those that we have, FAA comes back and says, we've had so many incursions, you do need to look back and take a look at redesigning that area or making changes to ensure that we've got a minimized occurrence of those incursions.
The diagram that you included in our packet, where it outlines in yellow and where the edge markings are at, that's how it looked like 20 years ago.
I'm sure FAA is really good at going back and forth.
A trip to Lowe's or Home Depot should take care of it.
Well,
Okay.
conditions change, so it's important to revisit some of
All in
these.
favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item.
G is consideration and approval of contract amendment number 8 for the pavement management plan at McAllen International.
Staff recommends approval of contract amendment number 8 with KSA Engineers for another FAA-required airport pavement management plan in the amount of $161,265. This update is necessary for us to continue receiving FAA funding for any pavement improvement that the airport would like to seek. Staff recommends approval.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries.
H is consideration and approval of contract amendment 36 for aviation marketing and consultant services.
Staff is recommending approval of contract amendment 36 with Rigo Studios for aviation marketing and consulting services in the amount of $345,555. This is subject to the adoption of the department's requested fiscal year 23-24 budget. This contract amendment allows for us to work with the current marketing consultant to complete all of our annual marketing campaigns, as well as to provide support for professional services and for new air service campaigns should they be needed. Staff is recommending approval, again pending approval of the fiscal year 23-24 budget as recommended and requested by the department.
And this is our penny.
This is our vendor, Pollux Castor, correct?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
4A is providing for a budget amendment for the Anza Lewis Bridge infrastructure improvements.
Mayor, City Commission, good afternoon. So this is a budget amendment for 2 change orders already presented and approved to the City Commission in the amount of $1,008,760 with 75 cents.
And
Staff
that's what
recommends approval.
we discussed in budget? That was the budget discussion that we had? So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Item B.
B is providing for a budget amendment for Anza Lewis Bridge Debt Service B reimbursement to the city of McAllen.
I'll give you a summary, and if you want a detailed set, Sergio Villasan is
That
here.
was a big one, yeah. No.
But this is a transfer that the McAllen Hidalgo International Bridge does to Service B, Debt Service B, in the amount of $840,000 every year. This year, the Ansaldos International Bridge has enough money in the capital to be able to pay that service. They don't need the transfer in. So we're able to return back 2022, 2023, and part of 2024 in the amount of $2,009,950.
Wow.
And this is the first time it happened.
It's the first time it's ever happened.
Motion to approve.
All right.
I want discussion on this one.
Thank you.
We don't want it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries.
C is providing for the amendment of the mobile food vendors ordinance fire suppression system.
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. With the goal of expediting the permitting process, we are requesting authorization to amend Section 5451D of the Mobile Food Vendors Requirements Ordinance. This section, specific letter J of the ordinance, covers food trucks that are mandated to have fixed fire suppression systems. All of this in accordance with the Texas Insurance Code, Chapter 6001, and the International Fire Code, Section 901.5, which are the ones that regulate the requirement of those fixed fire suppression systems for food trucks and trailers. Under the current ordinance, newly installed systems require testing in the presence of a city fire marshal designee, and this is not necessary anymore. Under the proposed amendment, mobile food vendors must provide proof that the required hood was installed and tested by a licensed firm during the final fire inspection. Staff recommends approval of the proposed amendment to the ordinance. I'm open for any questions.
Questions?
So that means that they would need you to go over and check it?
That is correct. And so years ago, when we first created the ordinance for the food trailers and trucks, there was no specific chapter in the fire code that had specifications for those type of trucks or trailers. Consequently, the ordinance, the way it is right now, was written to have some sort of regulation, but that was a regulation created internally. Now, the fire code has created, fast forward to now a few years, Chapter 9 of the International Fire Code now was created in specific to be able to regulate that aspect of, hood systems. And so with that in mind, we're trying to basically close the gap and align ourselves to the newly existent chapter of the fire code. It will eliminate one fire inspection that is not required anymore.
Any other questions?
Move to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Item D.
Thank you.
D is providing for a budget amendment for Hidalgo County Precinct 2 Trail. This is the item that you
Workshop?
heard in the workshop, Mayor. We still are going to owe you an MOU, but these are the figures that Denny presented at workshop.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Denny.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Item 5A is, do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries.
B is resolution appointing a chairman of the Board of Directors of Reinvestment Zone Number 1.
Good evening, gentlemen. The Tres Lagos Tours Board has recommended Nick Rhodes be appointed chairman of the Board of Directors for the Zone Number 1. Staff recommends approval.
Motion approved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries.
Advisory Board appointments.
Good evening, Mayor and City Commission. We have advisory board items. We've got two members that have, one has termed out from Friends of Quinta, that's Margie McCreary, and Chris Rivera has resigned. And the Friends of Quinta Mazatlan Executive Committee has sent two nominations. Those are Julian Alvarez. I have forwarded that the application to Commissioner Quintanilla, And Matthew Walthoff also applied, and I've forwarded that information to Commissioner Castillo. And again, the executive committee is nominating them,
This is recommended by, okay.
the Quinta Mazatlan Executive Committee.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries.
Perla, sorry. I don't have a replacement yet for the Parks Board. I'll have that for you soon. But it's not showing on here, but I believe Erica De La Garza already turned in resignation for P&Z,
Okay.
or should have.
Yes.
I did, right?
I'll look
So
at
she'll be coming off, to make sure that board continues. I'm gonna appoint Riza Bedia Zamani.
Do you want to do that
Was that a
nomination
form
now, or
of
you want me to bring it
motion? Yes.
back?
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against?
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you.
B is the review of the quarterly investment report for quarter ending June 30th.
The investment report before you is prepared in accordance with the Public Funds Investment Act, as well as the city's investment policy. The Audit Investment Committee met on August 29th, 2023, reviewed and approved the report. The total book value for the city's portfolio was $513 million, with a year-to-date, with an average yield-to-date maturity of 3.947%. If there are no questions, staff recommends approval.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries.
C is consideration and approval of engagement letter for our external auditor, Weaver and Tidwell.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Item D.
Immigration report.
Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, immigrant drop-off numbers from CBP and ICE have been on the increase here over the last couple of weeks. We averaged 510 per day for the last 6 weeks, and here over the last 2 weeks, that number's gone up to about 540 per day. Our COVID positivity rate has decreased. We were averaging 5 and 6 weeks ago, we were at 6.6%. 2 weeks more recent than that, we were at 4.3%, and over the last 2 weeks, we're at 2.8%. Even though COVID numbers remain a little bit higher throughout the community, we're seeing the numbers drop here locally. I'm happy to answer any questions. Anzalduas Park, by the way, is still active. We have less than 100 out there at Anzalduas Park, but we do have a capacity of 4,000 plus.
Excellent. What we have, how fast is it taking to, I guess, transport out?
It's actually going pretty quick. I know Catholic Charities is dealing with most of these individuals on their side. The numbers, even though they have gone up, they have not overtaxed their capacities, so they're able to get these folks out on buses, airplanes. Our understanding is the majority of people are not staying with them more than 24 to 36 hours.
And I know we did pretty good with Guatemala, El Salvador, Viva, Venezuela. We're having a little more issues with Haitians. How are we, what's going on?
Catholic Charities is able to translate. I know some of what they've done in the past literally is use Google Translate when they need to, so that they can, communicate with the immigrants as they're coming through. Our numbers right now in the RGV sector, the majority are coming from Honduras, Guatemala. That's the vast majority of who we're seeing here. The numbers are increasing across the border, and so what we used to see where the numbers were really high in the RGV sector and people were being sent to other places on the border, that's happening in reverse a little bit now. Tucson is getting higher numbers than we are, and so individuals are decompressing from other parts of the border, and some of them are coming to our area.
Thank you. Any other questions? Future agenda items.
Thank you,
so
Jeff.
much.
Thank you.
Future agenda items, nothing. Executive session.
Mayor, we have one item to discuss in executive session. I recommend the commission recess.
No, recess into executive session. And we're back from executive session. Council, what do we have?
Mayor, with respect to item 7A1, I recommend the City Commission consider a motion authorizing the city manager and city attorney to negotiate the economic development incentives described in executive session.
Don't move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned.
Regular City Commission meetings are held on the second and fourth Monday of each month. Meetings are rebroadcast on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays on the McAllen Cable Network.
Cantando se alegra el cielito lindo en los corazones.